Well, here we are for our last interview for this day on Monday at the Southern Baptist Convention Women's Expo. I've talked a lot today, and we're glad that you're with us. And I have sweet group of women here, two women who are an incredible ministry of telling others about Jesus, and they're going to tell us about who they are, who they work for, and about their exhibit and their ministry. So both of you just start off and tell me a little bit about yourselves.
All right. Well, my name is Shaylana Casey. I'm the Save the Mother, Save Her Child coordinator for Evantell. So I work with our pregnancy center ministry, going in and training the staff and volunteers to meet with the clients and just share the gospel in their client advocate meetings.
That is often. I want to unpack that some more, but let's introduce your friends a little bit more, and then we'll go from there.
My name is Djery Flores, and I'm the director of Hispanic Ministries. And what we do is that all what we train and equip people all over Latin America and the United States in Spanish. That way we can share the gospel in different languages and in our heart language, which is Spanish.
That is an amazing thing. My husband just used an app yesterday to share the gospel with our housekeeper, and she prayed to receive the Lord. It was an amazing event. He was telling me about it last night, so he did share that with me. And so you go all over. Evantell is the umbrella, right, of both of your ministries.
Yes.
And your project is for the Hispanic part of it, and you're for mothers.
Yes.
And tell me the tell me the acronym, what it stands for.
SMSC stands for Save the Mother, Save Her Child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we go and share the gospel. We believe that if you can get the mother to believe in the Lord and come to know him as her Lord and Savior, then she is more likely to choose life for her baby in the pregnancy centers.
That's awesome. So you work directly with the pregnancy centers for sharing the gospel with that woman. So both of you, starting with you, Shaylana, tell me exactly how that plays out.
Yeah. So I reach out or hear from pregnancy centers, and then we do online trainings most of the time more recently. And we do a 2-hour evangelism training focused on kindness, confidence, and clarity of the gospel.
Okay. And so then the pregnancy center volunteers are equipped to share the gospel with the women who come in for a pregnancy test and evaluation, or are asking for help as far as the next steps in their pregnancy or in their journey of where they found themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so do you have resources that you give them? What do you do with that?
Yeah, so we go through our Wherever You Go training, and then we teach them how to use either our May I Ask You a Question tract, which was created by our founder, Dr. Larry Moyer. And we use that one as well as our God's Heart for You tract, which we really love because it leads with love and just shows the women that the Lord loves them and
he
cares
sees them,
for them.
right?
Yeah,
no matter what station, that they find themselves. All right. So tell me, that's one aspect.
Yes.
You guys are doing double duty down there. I mean, that's a lot. So you have just having your side of the ministry is a full-blown, full-time ministry because of where we are in our culture, right? So now we're going to add Hispanic ministries to it. And you said you train not only here in the United States, but all over Latin America.
Correct. Everybody that speaks Spanish all over the world.
Which I'm doing my arms like this because
Spanish is the second most language spoken around the world.
Yes. So
that's what we do.
Job, right?
Huge job. Yeah.
Huge job.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about how you unpack a little bit about what that looks like for you and how you do that for women. What's important culturally for women? I think there's a little bit of a difference in the Hispanic culture for women and learning how to share the gospel. So unpack a little bit of what that looks like for you.
So definitely, thank you. The main thing for us is to teach people what the gospel is, and to make it for them. Once they understand what the gospel is, we translate all our materials. We make it culturally adapted to the culture that it's important,
because in the language, because they can have a little bit of different meaning. Words can, right?
And it's not the same Spanish that Mexicans speak is not the same Spanish that
dialect,
people from Argentina speaks or other regions. So Spanish is the main language, but we have differences between the countries and
right,
cultures.
right.
So what we do is that we teach them and we equip Christians around the world on what the gospel is, and then we equip them with different trainings. And the most important thing for women over here is that sometimes we don't feel confident as women to say and go and share the gospel. We feel like, oh, that's something for someone else, someone that has more experience, someone that has more education, someone
Right.
that has a different background, and we're all called to share the gospel.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we try to go and talk about what's the right mindset. That
Right.
it doesn't matter what's your background, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. If you know the foundation of the gospel, then you're going to be able to go and share it, because we are all called to share the gospel.
Absolutely. So it'd be like there. Well, English is the main language on the United States, and every state we use different terminology, different wordings for different things. Like I'll say, let's go have a Coke or a soda. They might say soda or pop in a different state.
Correct.
So what you're doing is taking the gospel presentations within Evantell and you're translating it to the different dialects in Spanish throughout the different countries, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
are you directing it mainly to women or to everyone?
We direct it to everyone, but we have a special training for women, because we need to reach their heart. We need to reach them the way they are, right? We're different. We're set up different by
Well, we
God.
have different responsibilities within our homes. Even if we're working outside of the home,
That's important. Yeah.
we are going to have different responsibilities within our homes. A lot of times we hold the things together so that, in fact, I was talking with a ministry wife this past week, and she was in a class with me, but she left her children behind for 5 days, and she'd never been away from them for 5 days. And so every day, along with all the other responsibilities she had with what we were doing and the work that she did outside of her home, she was conducting like, this is where they go today, this is where they go, she giving instructions there. So
Right.
you're sharing with the woman to give her confidence, right? So you're
Yes.
training her to give her confidence within her heart language
Correct.
to be able to share the plan of salvation.
Yes, yes.
Wow,
So we
that's
teach them and we start that with the mindset, because we need to have the right mindset, right?
so. What is the challenge of that? Let's unpack that a little bit. What is the challenge in the Hispanic culture with having women? This was not a prepared question. I apologize for that. So I'm going a little off script for
That's
you.
okay.
But I know that culturally, because I've been trying to get my site translated in Spanish, and it's just such a huge job to try to change all of the verbiage
Right.
into a relatable cultural acceptance or an understanding
Correct.
of what we're trying to communicate within the article. So, and also culturally, just the mindset of the roles of each of a woman and a man within each different cultures, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and biblically how they interpret that.
Right. Right.
So tell me what is maybe an essential thing for you. Let's go back to one of our questions. What is one of the essential things as teaching a Hispanic woman in women's ministry how to share her faith?
So the main thing is to understand what the gospel is. The gospel is not going to change here in the other side of the world.
It's the
Or
gospel.
yeah. So
Jesus
the main
saves,
thing,
right?
yeah, Jesus saves, and we say it in 10 words. The way we say it is that our founder created this phrase that the gospel, you can teach it in 10 words. If you can learn those 10 words, that's the foundation.
So give me the words in
gospel.
English and then give me the words in English.
Okay,
in
in
Spanish.
So the 10 words is that Christ died for our sins and rose from the dead. If you learn 10 words, you're going to be able to share the gospel.
Okay.
And in Spanish is Cristo murió por nuestros pecados y resucitó de la muerte. 10 words. It's simple. But there are many things that we have culturally. And the mindset, when we were talking about mindset, it was very important, because sometimes we don't feel qualified. Sometimes we are afraid. Sometimes we feel, what if I ruin my relationship if I share the gospel with my family member that they don't believe in Jesus?
Right.
So if you start thinking about all those things, sometimes we prefer not to share the gospel.
Right.
So the main
And
thing,
family is very tight in the Hispanic culture.
yeah,
It's
yeah, you don't
very
want to
tight.
ruin your relationship with your family.
Right.
So you prefer to stay away and say like one day may Jesus save them, but if we don't plant the seed,
Right.
it's
So
not
you
going to
have a
happen.
huge job because you're crossing not only a language barrier, but you're crossing a
Culture, yeah,
cultural barrier
yes,
where you're having to that it's not coming against your to try to change the mindset that you're not coming across the or coming against the cultural barrier. You're saying, because I love you, I have to share these 10 words with you, right?
correct, correct,
Because I love you. And I
yes,
share it in love and confidence as a
yes,
woman, not because I want to lord it over you,
correct,
but because I love you. I want you to know this, right?
correct, correct. That's a main
Powerful.
piece, love, and loving everybody the way they are, loving people because we are all created by God,
Yeah.
and through that foundation of the gospel is going to stay the same. We love people
Yeah.
the way they are, and also we're going to be obedient on sharing the gospel,
Yeah.
obedient of planting that seed.
Wow.
And the only way we're going to get better is by experience,
Right.
doing it over and over again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the truth is, none of us win anybody to Jesus. Jesus has already done the work. He saves us.
Right.
They just have to receive the gift, right?
Amen.
They just have to reach it out and take the gift that's already been done for them,
Right.
already priced, that's been paid for them.
Right.
So let's go to SMSC and let's talk a little bit about what that looks like as far as connection. How do you get word from to a crisis pregnancy center or from them? How do you find them? Do they find you? Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so a lot of them will find us through our website, but we also had SMSC has been around for almost 8 to 10 years, I believe.
Okay.
And so we've been to different conventions, making contact with pregnancy centers.
Okay.
And then a lot of them are familiar with Evantell. And then when they find out that we have training specifically for them, teaching them how to transition conversations is the main thing that we talk about. So how to kind of go from general topics of how's the weather out today to then going to more spiritual topics. Are you connected to a church, or do you have any spiritual beliefs? And then helping them transition from that to then the gospel presentation. Do you have any belief in God, or what does that look like in your life? And then the client advocates are then able to share either their story or just share more, just the 10 words of the gospel.
You know, it's so important what both of you do from both different aspects, especially in the world that we're living in today. And you've really, even in our conversation, gone through all the questions that I was going to ask you. But one of the things that I want to connect with is the last two questions that I was going to ask you is, how do you span the generational gap? How do you go from older to younger? I shared earlier that we've been told that 9 generations are within the church walls today. So I've shared that a couple of times already today. And then the Lord proved it to me by meeting a woman that was 92 and turning around and seeing our worship pastor's daughter come in that was 10. So, you know, so how do your ministries help connect those generational walls with women? How do you do that?
First of all, the way we do it is to make sure that every generation knows the gospel. 10 words. Kid can learn 10 words. An old person can learn 10 words. The
That's
message is the
amazing.
same, God's love.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change generation to generation.
Right.
Technology might change, the ways of doing it, the techniques we use, the different platforms we use. And what we encourage people is to have a method how you share the gospel. Because if you have a clear method, then you're going to be able to share in a clear way. So that's what we do.
That's incredible.
And methods change generation to generation too, because before
but the message doesn't change, but the
message
method
doesn't change, but the method could change.
In fact, this last week I heard, get a script, have a script, and they gave an acronym for us, just this very same thing, like the 10 words. But think about where you're going. There's sin that Jesus saves, and he has resurrected for us. And so just think through the process so that you're ready to share the gospel, right? Because it is He is the answer
Mhm.
to all problems, right?
Yes.
No matter who we are. And that is true. If we see a young woman come to Jesus before she has her children, things will be different, right? Right. And we stop maybe some cycles that have continued over and over and over again.
Right.
And that's what you're in the business to do. And one day there's going to be a hundreds and thousands of people that are in the heaven because of what the two of you have done.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see the Lord at work.
That is amazing. So, with that in mind, and you're being women in ministry, how has the gospel changed you, altered you? How has it been a challenge? What has it cost you? Has it cost you anything? And I know the answer to this, but is it worth it? So let's back it up. How has it challenged you? What has it cost you? Let's talk about that for a minute.
I think there's different versions of cost. I think for me, it cost me my comfort zone a lot to have the confidence to share the gospel or to make that next step in conversation. We talk a lot about how you can get to know somebody, you can share a lot about the Lord, but if you don't ever invite them and take that step of being like, do you believe this
Right.
is true? Would
Right.
you trust Jesus? If,
Right.
if
Make
you
the
were
lot.
to die tonight,
Right.
would you know that you're going to
Right.
heaven? I think
Draw the
taking
net.
that step.
Right.
But the confidence to know that our job is just contact and it's God's job to do the converting, and
Right.
we're just planting seeds, and sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't, but it's all just a learning experience, and the Lord is going to use it no matter what.
Has it been worth it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
I knew that would be what we were going to say.
It's always worth it.
Yeah,
It's
it
always
is.
worth
So
it.
what about you?
Well, to me, I'm originally from Guatemala City, and I moved here 11 years ago. And
So it
it
cost you
cost me, I left my family, my comfort, my church,
country.
everything. I had no family over here in the United States. So it cost a lot, but it's worth it. So worth it, because you leave your country to come over here. In my case, I came here, I learned this, and now I can go back and bring this not only to my country, but all the countries where we speak Spanish.
Awesome.
So that's wonderful.
So are you here to stay for a little while longer?
I live here in Dallas.
Awesome.
I live here in Dallas, yes.
And so do you think that's going to be a little while before you go back? Are you thinking to make this home, or you don't know? Whatever Jesus wants.
I think now I'm so open, and basically doing that move, it takes, would you say what the cost is? Time, setting up your priorities, and also being obedient. So to answer your question, I'm obedient to the Lord. So if He would send me back, I will go there. If I'm here and traveling, we travel a lot. So I travel wherever He sends me, and I have a lot of the support from our team and our ministry, and from my family as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both for being with me today, for coming to the Women's Expo, and for allowing me just to have this conversation with you. It's so important for us to be able to share the gospel with women today. Uh, just in the last few weeks, I had a conversation and heard at my church, at my home church in Louisiana, that over 40% of our congregation, our newcomers that are coming to visit, 40% of them are women. So if we can win women to the gospel, then they will be great and mighty women of God sharing the gospel with first and foremost their children and their family, and then their children and family will share the gospel with others. So thank you so much for your hard work, for what you're doing for the cause of the gospel, and for your sacrifice of your time and your lives. I really appreciate that. It's most important work. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So there we go. We will see you tomorrow right here at the Southern Baptist Convention Women's Expo for another day of podcasting and visiting our booths, our exhibits. And I want you guys, as we're getting ready to close, give me your website that women can go to. If they're just listening to us live, they need to find out more about you. So share your website with them.
Evantell.org. Evantell.org.
And what about you?
And then the English site is evantell.org, and there's a tab on there for SMSC.
Okay, there you go. So you've got the websites ready for you to click on if you're not here in person, but also if you're here, you need to get yourself down there and visit their exhibit. You'll be glad you did, and they will be glad to see you. God bless you. I'm Diane Nix, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.